How can our name influence our destiny? Who knows our name and remembers it always? Have you ever wondered what impact your name can have on your destiny? After all, a name is not just a set of letters. It is part of your identity, your heritage and your destiny. But who knows our name best and remembers it always, even when we ourselves sometimes forget it? Let me tell you a story about a young man named David. David felt lost in the world. His name seemed to him to be just a word that carried no meaning. But one day, in his moment of greatest despair, he heard a whisper. It was God whispering his name so gently and with such love that David's heart was filled with light. In that moment, David realized that his name was a sign that he was not forgotten, that he was important and loved. From then on, David began to see his life in a new way. He realized that whenever he felt lonely or lost, he could turn to God, who always remembered his name and was always there for him. It is the same with each of us. Our name to God is not just a word. It is a symbol of our uniqueness and our connection to Him. When we feel forgotten, when we feel like we are just faces in a crowd, God reminds us of our worth by whispering our name. He knows each of us so deeply and personally that even the hairs on our head are counted. Luke 12:7. There is nothing more comforting and inspiring than realizing that the Almighty knows us so personally and intimately. Now I want to ask you a question. When was the last time you felt that your name, your identity, was truly understood and appreciated? Remember, there is one who always remembers and appreciates you. That is God. He whispers your name in every moment of your life, reminding you of your infinite worth and that you are never alone. Open your hearts to this wonderful realization and let this knowledge transform our lives. Remember, you are not just a face in the crowd for God. You are His favorite child and He knows you by name. If you agree with this, please put a like under this video. But if you have other thoughts, doubts or disagree with what has been said, feel free to leave your comments. We value every opinion and are ready for an open dialogue. Your participation helps us to better understand each other and grow together in our faith and understanding of God's love. Imagine a time when the whole world seems foreign and incomprehensible to you. Times when the weight of life's circumstances weighs on you so heavily that it seems as if you are unable to take even one more step. Your heart is filled with fear, your mind is racked with doubt, and it feels like you are all alone in your struggle. At times like these, when hope is fading and you feel most vulnerable, something extraordinary happens. In the very depths of your heart, through the noise and bustle of everyday life, you hear a whisper. It is not just a sound. It is a voice that sounds so familiar and yet so sublime. It is God speaking to you personally, calling you by name, reminding you that He cares about you. He is saying, I am here. I am with you. You are not alone. These words sound like balm to the soul, filling it with light and comfort. Let's share moments from our lives when we felt most alone and how we found comfort and hope. Was there a time in your life when you felt a divine presence that helped you through a difficulty? Write comments. Perhaps it is when a person is feeling very bad that they will read your response and feel better and have hope. It is in our moments of pain and loneliness that we become open to receiving such feedback. Your stories and reflections can help us better understand how faith and awareness of the divine presence can be a support in difficult times. For even when we feel forgotten and alone, there is always someone who knows us by name and will never leave us in need. Share your thoughts, stories, or questions. Your experience can be a ray of light for someone looking for answers and comfort. This message carries a deep meaning of redemption and unconditional love. There are times in everyone's life when we feel lost, when our mistakes seem unforgivable, and we are convinced that punishment will follow for our doubts and fears. But here's something important to realize. God's love for us is not dependent on our successes or failures. He sees us through the prism of infinite love and mercy. There was a man who struggled with his weaknesses all his life. He often stumbled and made mistakes that seemed irreparable. With each mistake, his heart was filled with more and more fear and doubt in his own worthiness. One day, in a moment of deepest despair, he turned to God, expecting judgment. But instead, he heard a quiet voice that reminded him, "You are valuable. Your mistakes do not define you in my eyes. I love you just the way you are." That moment was a turning point for him. He felt an invisible hand lifting him up, cleansing his soul and filling his heart with light and peace. God lifts us up when we fall and reminds us of our true worth. He does not reject us for our mistakes, rather, He is always there to support us and guide us back to the light. Perhaps you too have similar stories, when in moments of despair and self-doubt you felt a divine presence that helped you get up and move on. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 43 verse 1, it says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." These words have extraordinary power and depth. They are not just a line from an ancient text, but a promise made to every person on earth. A promise that at every moment of our lives, regardless of the circumstances in which we find ourselves, we are under the infinite protection and love of the Almighty. Our existence, our life on earth, is not an accident or a series of uncontrollable events. Each of us has been redeemed and called by name, which means that we all have a unique purpose and place in this world, predetermined by a higher power. This statement gives us the understanding that we are not alone in our trials and difficulties, that behind each of us is a power that transcends all earthly obstacles. A man found comfort in these words during the most difficult period of his life. He was going through a deep crisis, feeling lost and alone. At one such moment, when it seemed that all was lost, he discovered this verse. The words, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine," sounded to him like a personal address from the Almighty. Suddenly, he felt that his burden became lighter and hope settled in his heart. From that moment, he began to see his problems from a different angle, knowing that he was not alone in his trouble and in his joy. This verse can be a beacon of light for anyone who feels lost or alone. It reminds us that our lives matter and that we are valuable in the eyes of the Creator. How can these words change the perception of your own life? And now, when despair feels like a black blanket over you, remember this verse. Say these words and you will feel better. Share your thoughts and stories. Perhaps your experience will help someone find comfort and understanding in these powerful words, reminding us that we are all protected and loved by the Almighty, no matter what our circumstances. Let's not forget that our lives are a precious gift, and each new day represents a unique opportunity to live up to that love, to spread kindness, compassion and light in the world. When we do this, we don't just go through life, we become a living reflection of God's love, a shining example of how we can make a difference in the world around us. I will tell the story of a man who put these words into action. He was an ordinary man, like many of us, with his own worries and problems. But one day, he decided that every day he would do at least one good deed. It could be anything: a smile to a stranger, helping an elderly person cross the road, or even just a nice word to a colleague. Over time, these small acts turned into big changes. People around him began to respond to his kindness with their own, creating a wave of positive change in his community. This story emphasizes how important it is to remember the value of each day and the opportunity it provides us to be a source of light and love. After all, when we spread kindness and compassion, we not only improve the lives of others, but we also enrich our own lives with meaning and joy. What small acts of kindness do you think you can do today? How can you become a reflection of God's love in your surroundings? Write about it. Write what you did today and you will see how small acts can lead to big changes. Perhaps your experience will inspire someone else on the path of kindness and compassion, helping them realize that each of us has the ability to bring light into this world, making it a better place every day. In closing, I encourage each of you to open your heart to this infinite love. Allow God to whisper your name in the silence of your hearts. Remember that you are never alone because God is always with you, loving and supporting you every step of the way. This is an invitation to take a deep and personal journey inside yourself, to discover the connection that surpasses all understanding, and to establish relationships that give our lives meaning, purpose, and joy. As I reflect on the meaning of these words, I want to share the story of a man who found solace and direction in his life through this realization. Living a life of constant hustle and stress, he felt weary and lonely until one day, in a moment of deep meditation, he felt the presence of divine love. This experience transformed him, reminding him that he was never alone. From then on, he began to seek and find God in small things, in everyday moments, and in the faces of the people he met. This realization gave his life new meaning and purpose. I want to ask you a question. How can you open your heart to infinite love? What steps can you take to hear the whisper of God in the silence of your heart? Perhaps it will be time spent in prayer or meditation, reading spiritual texts, or simply moments of silence spent in nature, marveling at its beauty and majesty. Remember that opening your heart to love is not a one-time act, but an ongoing journey. It is a process that takes time, patience, and dedication. But the results of this journey can exceed your expectations, leading you to deep peace, joy, and the realization that you are truly never alone. Your life is a journey full of opportunities for growth, exploration, and love. Allow this infinite love to be your compass, guiding you through all the challenges and joys that await you. I am here. I am right here. I am always with you, 𝙂𝙈𝙈𝙨𝙨.